Casa del Bel Cortile is like the Casa del Portico, an unusual house. It features this fantastic, very large reception room with a late third style Roman wall painting, which also has this fantastic architectural structure, which is accompanied with these drawings, architectural line drawings, which Mayuri's team did to reconstruct the original design of the architectural framework. The Casa del Bel Cortile was also the house in which Amedeo Maiuri in 1956 opened an antiquarium, where he brought objects from all over the site together to kind of portray the daily life of the ancient Herculaneums. And I wanted to do something very different at Casa del Bel Cortile to Casa del Portico, and wanted to much more focus on the objects, hence these connections to Amedeo's museum, but also to these third style wall paintings, which do incorporate reproductions of objects that seem to be the ideal place for doing something with replicas of the original objects. So one of the objects which really caught my attention was this portrait of Livia, which portrays her as a very powerful woman with a sort of laureate diadem. She was the wife of Augustus, and so it's almost like a piece of propaganda. At the same time, it has gone through this horrible catastrophe and is really marked on one side by that catastrophe. But yet it's today a really, really powerful portrait of strength and vulnerability and integrity. And I think it's quite interesting to see a portrait of Livia, who we know who she was. There's a lot of evidence about her life, and then on the other hand you get in Herculaneum objects like these wooden figures and female figures as well, which we don't quite know what they are, although there are speculations that they are either ancestors which would have been on the altar, or they might have been part of furniture, wooden furniture, beds or so. But they are anonymous. Nonetheless, they are super powerful. So I started in my work to really play with the reproductions and to cut them up and to be actually quite brutal and aggressive in the methodology with these images, to really test what is it if we chip away at these objects, and where do they start to reveal themselves or to disguise themselves or hide themselves. And that's where then also in a playful way the language came in, because I was wondering what's the relationship between language and objects. How do we talk about objects, but how do we approach objects through their context or through the visual or sensual approach. So there the element of language came in as well, and hence the sort of collaging, quite brutal methodology which sort of cuts in letters into these reproductions as well, and plays with encoded messages, but also with this sort of relationship to we're giving sort of a context about all the figures in a leaflet, so that it plays on language, it plays on questions about objects, and also on thinking about why we're doing these things, how we're framing a site, and hence there's a sort of is a hidden phrase in there which makes you think about context and doing things within a context and for sort of purpose and why. So for me, it's that's two very different exhibitions, but very closely related in that that sort of testing out of the relationship of movable objects to static wall paintings, and to the to how the interior was created.